Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 184, Asatya Dev. He is a yoga teacher as well as a Reiki healing teacher, and we talked about his introduction into Hinduism and how he got into that, and talking about Amma, the hugging saint, and her role in his transition into that. And it was honestly one of my favorite conversations I've had recently. So if you guys want to go check that out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you'd like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and you can find that. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. So that brings me to today's episode 185, In the Pursuit of 200. We are making progress here with my buddy Tyrell. I forgot to ask about your last name. I know I mentioned it earlier, but
it's Mulvey, but Tyrell's cool.
My fault. As we're recording, I didn't re-ask the last name for pronunciation purposes, but appreciate you saying that. Yeah, so totally. We get that. Shout out to Danny. For helping set this up. He was on the podcast recently, and you saw that episode. And as soon as I saw some of your stuff, I was like, yeah, 100% want to set this up. And now here we are having a podcast, and we had a great pre-interview, and I'm really excited to see how this conversation goes and to learn a little bit more about you, because obviously pre-show I gave a little bit about the podcast, myself, and just some other random stuff we were talking about, and excited to learn about you. So start off with a little bit of who you are and what you're doing currently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 26-year-old male, from Providence, Rhode Island. I spent a lot of my time growing up on the north side of Providence, like Charles Street area, around there. Currently, right now, I do a few things as far as profession-wise. Like I window clean. I'm window cleaning, big commercial buildings or residential buildings, and I do some nightclub work on the side as well. And like to pursue my passions like art and stuff, writing rhymes or, on my side time. Primarily art though. Um, Definitely hip hop, graffiti art takes a lot of my time and my thoughts and stuff like that. But yeah, as right now I'm just working, doing my thing, trying to figure out this whole life thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we'll dive into each of these as we progress with the podcast, and I'm really excited to do that. So how I like to kick off the podcast is kind of talking about family dynamic.
Totally.
And for you guys that are new to the podcast, I always give this little cliche little thing about when we're talking about family dynamic and the reason why we do it. I believe it's similar to building a house. The foundation is our family. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's always important to dive there because everyone's family dynamic is different. Everyone comes from a different background. And to kind of figure out a little bit of who you are, I think a lot of who we are comes from our family, the good, bad, the ugly, everything in between. Yep. Like, I think it's important to at least acknowledge this and talk about it because it kind of shines a light into who we are and how we were raised a little bit early on as we build off that into the podcast and talk about your life story. So
definitely,
whatever you're comfortable with sharing, I'll allow you to dive into that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. As I started to get older, I started to wonder why I was the way I was. You know what I mean? Like everybody's unique in their own way, but I started to wonder why I was such a loner or why I was this way or that way. Then I started to like really think and dive deep into like you said, family dynamic of just like history or just upbringing. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of just like a lot of families. There was a lot of dysfunction growing up. You know what I mean? Between family. Like my father has 9 children, and my mom has 4 kids. So it was a lot of that. My mom and my father split when I was real young, and I remember seeing it as a kid, and I didn't really understand. I didn't know it was having an effect on me at the time. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really think about it like that, but it definitely did because I was one of those little kids in school, even elementary. I was doing like anger management and all that, and I didn't realize what was going on. But yeah, it was just really. I guess it was tough at the time because it was confusing because I really loved my dad. As a especially as a little boy, I was such a father, like a daddy's boy, or like I love my mother too. I was really close to my mom when I was younger. As so now we don't like we're not as close as I wish we was. You know what I mean? But it was like really conflicting, with my father having so many children, so many different women, not really being close to none of my siblings. I have a lot of siblings, but I'm not really super close to a lot of them. So you know, they were my dad's children were kind of scattered everywhere. Or my mom's, her main four, we were in the house for a bit, but they were a lot. I was the baby out of the four when it came to my mother. So by the time I needed like my siblings to be around, they were kind of all right. So if my older sister, she's already leaving, and my brother, he's already. I have another brother who was like really in and out of jail a lot, and that was the one I was closest to. We were super close, but he was always in and out of jail, so it was kind of hard. You know what I mean? I needed that big bro, but he just wasn't there. He was doing stuff from like acting up as a kid, like selling drugs to even like shooting somebody and doing all that stuff. Then my other brother, he's my full blooded brother, my only full blooded brother. He's gay, and we used to always bump heads and stuff because like he was dealing with his sexuality and like growing up and all that, and I was just being a boy, so we would always fight. So it was just like it was strange at times. I really wish that things would get better, but I'm taking the responsibility now to try to mend all that, you know what I mean, and overstand for those, you know what I mean, who, because there's a lot of like turmoil and fighting within families and stuff. I'm trying to always trying to be the one to look at the bigger picture, and like this shit is so limited, like so like you don't know what's gonna happen next. Let's just enjoy each other, you know what I mean? Fuck all that other shit, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack right there
yeah,
between even just your parents and then your siblings relationship as well.
yeah,
Like I know the relationships with siblings, that's a lot of times like our first friends.
yeah.
So to really experience that on that level was
Hmm.
probably pretty traumatic and something you don't realize at the time because like when
Super,
you're
yeah.
living in it, you don't realize it might not be the best situation at the time. It's just
Hmm.
what you know. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is my life. This is normal.
Mm.
And
When it's not
when it's
sometimes, yeah.
yeah, and then when you're removed from that situation and you
Mhm,
get to kind of retrospectively look back on things
mhm,
and like, okay, well, this was the dynamic then, and that probably caused a little bit of trauma in the way that I process things, the way that I
mhm.
act towards people. And I have to
Totally.
like you said, you're kind of looking at it from a better lens now to kind of stand up for yourself and attack those things where you need to attack them and be a better
Definitely.
person. I think that's very like applaudable to like do that because a lot of people
Appreciate you. Thank
might
you.
look at that and be like, I went through this and just it is what it is. It happened to me, so
Mhm.
why me? And just like sulk in it or like become that too. Like
Yeah,
you could
yeah,
become that, and like
yeah.
that's not the best path. And I think it's really great that you've been able to kind of pivot from that situation and to make the best of what you can. Because I mean, it's your family. It's the cards
Yeah.
you're dealt. You don't get to. We don't get to pick our
No.
families, and like
Yeah.
I don't think people always fully grasp that
Yeah.
when we're talking about families and family dynamics is we don't pick our families. So to understand that sometimes our families aren't going to be the best people in our lives and that's
Mhm.
okay, like to understand that sometimes friends might fill that void or uncles or aunts or grandparents or whoever it is might fill that void that
Yep.
our parents might not be doing or our siblings might not be
It's
doing,
true.
and understanding that family is fluid. It's not
Mhm.
just because we're blood you have to love them. That's
Mhm.
not the case all the time. And I've
Mhm.
learned that more and more through my own personal experiences and through the podcast with just talking to so many different people about their life story and their family dynamic. And this is a great reason or great point of why I like to talk about this because your family dynamic is different than my family
Yeah.
dynamic. And it's important to know that because obviously we're going to dive into your life story here. And I
Mhm.
would know none of this if I just didn't ask.
Yeah, and I
And I think
appreciate you
that's
for
important
asking. Thank you.
because, like, I want to know a little bit. And obviously, if you're not comfortable going into this, like, how your relationships with your specifically the siblings that were kind of raised in your household,
Yeah.
how has that been lately as you've gotten older?
As I've gotten older, it hasn't really gotten any better. My oldest sister, she went to Florida. She's doing her thing, so it's hard to really stay super close when that's going on. You know what I mean? She's all the way down there. My other brother, Khalil, like that's the one I said was gay. He kind of does his own thing. He holds on to a lot of grudges. I love him. He's an amazing person, and so I'm always just like forget. Like I don't. hold grudges, man. So if you're mad, that's I let it go the next day. So I'm just waiting for you to come back around, or I'm always like my arms always open, and like and as far as my brother, the one who who I was close with, like you know we kind of had little fallings out as because like he spent a lot of time away, so when he did a long like jail sentence, by the time he got out, we had a lot of catching up to do, which also means like fights that needed to happen. There was years worth of fights that we never got to do that eventually needed to come out. We got to learn about each other and all that. But me and him have a really good understanding because we just I don't know, we just kind of click. I'm not as close to him as I would like to be, and I know it bothers him because he's the type he would like me to be over there all the time, and I could see him sometimes filling the void with his friends, or like other people when he wants that little brother connection. He kind of can feel the, and sometimes I feel bad and guilty about that, but like it just goes back to me kind of being a loner. You know what I mean? I do spend a lot of time alone, or just driving around or in my thoughts, and I'm perfectly fine with that. You know what I mean? Not to like offend anybody or like not try to be a family member, but I just kind of do my own thing, and I have to. As of lately, I try to make more of an effort to like be there. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to brush up on that because I can be a better brother, uncle, even nephew, grandson. So I'm trying to, as I'm getting older, I'm trying to think about all those aspects of like how can I step up to the plate of being a better family member, because growing up I was just kind of, I was like a little pothead and stuff, and sometimes some family members might not have agreed with that because I was so young, so it kind of like I just kind of veered off and was became a loner stoner, hanging with the homies or something like that. So I kind of lost grasp of the family connection, which isn't good, you know what I mean? Because everybody's so scattered and all that, and you're only one person, and you're the youngest, so you kind of like, you have this like, well, I'm the young one. Why do I, because there's times where I had to play like a big brother role, and I'm the young brother. You know what I mean? But I never thought none of it because I love you. It was like if I love you, I'll give you anything I got. I'm not even gonna think twice about it. But at the same time, like it kind of also like that kind of gave me a pride too, because I remember my brother like. He said something like, "Yo, you're my younger brother, and I'm coming to you for advice." You know what I mean? So it kind of made me think like, "Oh, maybe I guess that's commendable about me. I guess like they could look to me for advice, or maybe they like respect what I have to say. And I feel if I'm the younger brother, you know what I mean? Like, so I respect that. But like, yeah, like we're the dynamic. I wish we were a little closer and all that. But give it time.
Yeah,
I'm
for
gonna keep
sure.
working on it.
I think it sounds like you had to grow up faster than you probably would have liked a little bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's
I don't
probably
think there's
yeah,
anything wrong with being a loner either. It's
yeah,
some of it is maybe we could make the connection that you're trying to establish peace from what you grew up in. Like
hmm
a little bit of that where
hmm
you're the youngest. Like, and this is where it's not your fault for that family connection not being as strong as you would like. It's that wasn't your fault. It had nothing to do with you. Like you're the youngest. Like that's
hmm
not your job.
yeah,
And not saying that any one person failed you in a specific way, but like clearly like the way that the structure of everything was, you were let down in certain aspects, especially being the youngest. And
yeah, facts.
sometimes that happens being the youngest too. Like
hmm
you get, it's like the stereotype where you might see on social media where the first kid is like always baby and like they want to be careful with, then the last one's like jumping off like the fucking playground set and doesn't care. Like,
yeah.
and maybe it's a little bit of that, but also like a lot of circumstance and what you
hmm
kind of were mentioning earlier. And that's what it seems like, a lot of like growing up early and trying to protect your peace and
Yeah.
separate yourself from the chaos, because we do as people want peace. We don't want to be in a chaotic situation once we've established what peace actually is,
That's a fact.
because
Yeah.
people can make peace in chaos, and that's where
Mm,
it's dangerous because you
yeah,
think that's where peace is found when it's
yeah.
never there.
There's a saying where it's like if you sit in shits too long, it starts not to stink. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's a
Yeah, that's
fact.
exactly what that kind of is
Yeah.
alluding to there, is like
hmm
you don't want to be constantly in those situations that are toxic or negative or causing you to act out in situations or act in ways that you don't want to act.
hmm
So being a loner, you could maybe qualify that as somewhat of a coping mechanism to
hmm
escape the chaos of what you were brought up in,
Yeah, that's a
and
fact.
maybe
Yeah.
that's what that is. And it also, it's not such a bad thing to be someone that's in their thoughts and
hmm
prefers to be alone. I'm like that. I don't like
Yeah.
to constantly be around people. And obviously, contrary to being a podcast host and talking to people, I'm very introverted. Like, I
Yeah.
like to be alone and I prefer being alone. And
Hmm.
um, you find people you like being alone with, and then that's kind of the way that things start to develop. And
Yeah.
maybe your social butterfly aspect comes a little bit more with those people. And you don't
Mhm.
have to be the guy that is the star at the fucking party, is a star at the bar, or
Yep.
wherever social interaction you're at. You don't have to be that person. And I don't think a lot of people don't like that. It's very more extroverted traits, but
Yeah.
still, nonetheless, that makes a lot of sense. As we're progressing with your life here, though, um, I want to dive into like kind of like with the childhood stuff and maybe some of the sports or hobbies or things that you did to kind of maybe separate yourself from your family. Because it sounds like maybe your friends were the place for you. Maybe there was a sport for you. Maybe there was a hobby like your art or something. Like, what was
Yeah.
the thing that you did or had that kind of allowed you to make friends and get away?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I believe I was very more extroverted than I am now. As a kid, I was a lot more fearless, you know what I mean? I was mingling a lot more and all that. And as I got older, I grew out of that. But as a kid, I remember just being kind of like maybe some anger issues, maybe a little sad. And one of my main hobbies was like writing rhymes, which is funny as it is because like all my uncles and my dad, my family, they love hip hop, you know what I mean? So I remember I think I must have been 9 years old when I started writing like little raps and stuff. So I would just like do that. I guess that, I played sports and stuff. Like I played like flag football, little basketball for the local boys and girls club and all that, but it never really like stuck with me or like it never, but I was an active kid. I love playing whatever. Like I love being a kid running around scraping my knees, my hands got road rash and acting like a fool. But I think like rapping was like or like MCism or just writing rhymes was even poetry when I was younger was a good escape for me. Like it was just something I liked, I thought I was decent at, so I just did it. And you know what I mean? It went from like writing little raps from 9 years old with my brother, and then like I remember as a kid, it progressed where there was like a local like community thing called AS220 where they help all the kids in Providence. Like it's a place where kids can just go create art. You know what I mean? It was started by like these local artists. I think Umberto Krenka and Susan, and they started this thing where people could just go and create art. They had visual art. You can write rhymes, you could dance and all that. And I used to go there for like an MC writing class. You know what I mean? So I just always had that. I think back to that, like as you get older, you realize like people who are super talented at what they do. A lot of times people are born like that, but then there's people who grinded since a child and they just never gave up and they got really good. I never had something that like I guess I did that. Like I wasn't like, oh, I was a star basketball player. I kept going, now I'm nice at basketball and I'm crazy good. Like I could say rhyming, like that was the only thing I felt like I stuck with, and I just always went back to. Like we all go through phases where I'm like, oh, I might have had like a gaming phase, or I might have had like a little basketball phase. Like with hip hop and rhyming and like writing raps, it just never left. It was always there for me. Like you know what I mean? So I guess just writing rhymes and like stuff that was a real good escape for me as a youth. You know what I mean? Used to
Yeah,
go in the
yeah.
bathroom and write little rhymes and shit.
It allows you to be creative, and I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing, especially growing up, to be allowed to experience that
Hmm.
creativity and to kind of get out of that comfort zone and kind of get the stuff in your mind on paper and practice that. And obviously,
Yeah.
it's translated later into life, as we're gonna see here,
Hmm.
and how that's kind of influenced some of the stuff that you like to do and continue to do.
Totally.
And I like the point that you made of like the stuff that we do as children. Some people have it,
Hmm.
and some people have it and then lose it.
Yeah. Oh,
And I think
facts.
something that I thought of when I was kind of starting the podcast and doing things was, how do I get that like child creativity back in me? Because over the years we lose that as adults. We lose
Oh
that
my
between
God,
life
bro.
and maybe bad relationships and losing people,
Yep.
like that like fire and light in our eyes. We lose that over time. And the key I've kind of learned, I feel like, is kind of reconnecting with that inner child and bringing out
Mhm.
that creative aspect and kind of living that value as an adult and bringing that forward. And we don't have enough of that in society, where everyone wants to be grown. It's like,
Yeah.
how about we be silly and have fun and
Mhm.
like tap into that creative aspect and just like all be positive about something for once, instead of being so dreading about the negativity of life and trying to make
Yeah,
money and
totally.
like having X number of relationships with people. And
Mhm.
it's like everyone focuses on these super external things. I was talking last week about this stuff, and a lot of the things that we need to do is reconnect with the self within.
Mhm.
And I totally agreed with that point
I
because
agree as well.
like once I started like meditating and focusing on more that stuff, a lot of my great ideas start to come to me and I start being more
Mm.
creative and I start kind of analyzing my life in a different way versus if I'm just like using external factors to make me feel happy. Like I acknowledge that video games can do that, or I acknowledge like certain substances can do that, or certain relationships can do that, or the social media can do that. Like there's certain things that can distract you from your purpose.
Mhm.
And I think part of our goal is reconnecting with that child to reconnect to that creative aspect, kind of what you were talking about there. And I
Yeah.
think that's like super important that we lose over time. And it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
It's so frustrating. I was listening to this Egyptian man speaking this like ancient Egyptian documentary. He was just speaking on like like I believe that the ancient Egyptians believed they had 360 senses. You know what I'm saying? As we're supposed to, we only have so many limited. They believed they had 360 of them. And he just stressed how important it was to exercise these things. And he put it in a way that like made me look at it. He was like, they shrink. You know what I mean? He's like, if you don't exercise, they start to shrink. And that made me really think, like, yeah, he's so true, man. But like you was getting to that child, like, oh man, it's crazy as we get older. You just start to, life can start to just take the color out of you. You know what I mean? And you want to hold on to that color as much. I'm so big on like not acting like a fucking child, but like, yo, just you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
be
yeah.
be like, let the kid out. Like, we all got that inner kid in you, and or like, granted, some people, they didn't get to have that chance. But like, I'm so big on people just acting a fool, not a fool, but like have fun, bro. You
Yeah,
know
if
what I
you're not
mean?
causing harm to people, like
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
enjoy life.
Yeah,
Like
bro.
life is meant to be enjoyed. Like
Yes,
obviously
it's
there's
facts.
sad parts of life, but
Yeah.
with that sadness allows you to experience those joys. And
Hmm.
I think those are important, the highs and lows of life. And we can go into so many, even bring up the Egyptian stuff. I love getting into
Bro,
talking about that stuff because that opens up
forget
a whole.
about it.
You ever heard of Billy Carson?
Yeah,
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 dude, he
yeah,
was on
yeah.
Joe Rogan recently, and Andrew Schultz, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Just going
The
off
Anunnaki again and
all
all
that
that
stuff.
stuff. Oh man,
Yeah, bro.
that's
We'll
a
be here for like
bro. That's a
all.
whole different
Yeah,
podcast. Like
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
tapped into that, man. That's
N-
the real woke. Talk
Yeah.
about that stuff.
Nah,
That's
bro. Honestly, yeah, you got me. I'm on the same page with you, bro. That shit's so fascinating, bro.
even
It's
if it's
so
like
fascinating.
there's just it provides a different explanation to why we are the way we are and
Mm-hmm.
what's like this world. Like
Mm-hmm.
because like obviously we have modern religions and we have history that's what is written by the winners that won history so
Yeah.
far. So it's like we don't really know, and we don't know what even happened like prior. Like I personally
Before
believe
that,
there's like totally advanced civilizations that lived before like what they're dating.
the one that we
Yeah.
think we dated,
Yeah, what we have in history. I think there's ones before that. I think the flood existed. I think the flood actually wiped out civilizations, and like there's way more that we don't
and we
know.
just been restarting and
Yeah,
all
I
that
think there was a
shit.
huge restart, and I
Oh
think
my
that's where like the
gosh.
religions come in, and like they talk about Noah's flood and Noah's
Yeah,
Ark
that
and all.
shit is so fascinating though, bro. Like that shit will just leave me up at night, like doing mad research, like you know
Like
what I mean?
there's so much there. We don't have to get into it, but like you brought that up, and my brain just immediately jumped to that. I'm
It's
like
another
so in that.
connection we have, you
Yeah,
know
I
what I'm
love
saying?
that shit, man. It's
Yeah.
just like this. If you don't acknowledge that part of like the unknown of like there's something bigger there that we just
Hmm.
don't know, and like that's where you like so people can say God or source or Buddha or go into Hinduism or reincarnate. Like there's so many different things, but there's clearly undeniably something there that connects us all
Yeah,
that is beyond our comprehension at this point.
that's a fact.
That's after this, and I just wish we would do more research about that. We care so much about fucking like stupid ass celebrities doing random stupid shit and stuff. It's like, how about we figure out where we come from?
Yo,
Like, let's get into
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Like, because if we figure out that, then we could figure out all the other stuff that we have questions about. Because if
Hmm.
you know where you come from, hence why we start with the podcast about where we come from,
Yeah,
it creates a more fuller picture to where we're gonna go.
where we're gonna
And
go.
I just made that connection right there to make it sound like all good and stuff, but like it's true. Like if we could figure out where we're from, all the other stuff starts to make a little bit more sense.
No, I totally agree with that, man. Like that shit fascinating, and the fact that it doesn't fascinate a lot of people boggles me, you know. But to each his own, you know.
Yeah,
To each his
it's
own.
each his own, and we're not gonna spend the whole. That's maybe a whole different podcast
Yeah,
we could do in
yeah,
the future. But like,
totally.
um, building off of this, talk to me a little bit about getting into like high school and then going through high school and then Like, did you go to college? Did you not go to college? Like, talk to me about that
Yeah,
experience.
totally. Yeah, I didn't go to college. High school. High school, I went to Providence Career and Technical Academy. So I went to like a vocational school. I went there for plumbing. They had all these trades you could practice. They gave you like 2 weeks of like each trade so you could pick one. And I ended up picking plumbing. And high school, um, I should have been way more focused for sure. At that time I was already like a super pothead. I was smoking weed heavy in middle school. Getting into high school, it was just getting worse. And I should have been focusing a lot more. Wasn't the best student, what I mean? I was a good guy. I got along with everybody. I wasn't like a super popular kid or I wasn't a super lonely. Like I just kind of mingled and got along with everybody. And I like to even stick up for those who felt were getting bullied and stuff like that. Definitely did like some fighting in high school and like, getting arrested for like dumb shit just for like that. Like little shit like fighting or like breaking up fights and then like a desk hits a teacher or something and then like little shit like that. I definitely should have been paying attention. High school made a lot of good connections and like great friends that I still have to this day. You know what I mean? But I was doing a lot of leaving, walking out of school, going to do dumb shit, like just like going to have sex and doing dumb shit when I really should have been like focusing because I went there for plumbing, which is a great career, awesome career. And later down the line in life, I did HVAC for a little bit in my life, so it was like, if I would have been like focused and study and like I could have like got a head start because that's what that school was setting us up for. We were just so young and we're in Providence, we're inner city kids, you know what I'm saying? We don't realize the opportunity we had in front of us. And now when I speak to my friends, like who were with me in that same thing, we were bunking doing they think the same thing. Like one of my good friends, Dijon, like me and him was on the same dumb shit, like doing dumb shit, bro, like stupid shit, leaving school, like doing little crime, like dumb shit, bro, that we all regret partly, but like we look back now, like damn, we had a blessing, bro. We had a top of the line school with all these supplies and all this training, like only if we knew. But at the same time, we can't put too much pressure on ourselves because we were only so young. We didn't know. Even the teachers we were dealing with, we gave them so much hell, and now we look back like, damn, these dudes were great men. You know what I mean? Shout out to them. Like, why would we being assholes to them? Like, they were trying to teach these young dumb kids how to like change their lives, and we were just being stupid. But that just goes back to like the dysfunction or just not having the right guidance of someone being in your ear. Like, yo, this is a not like this doesn't mean everything, but this could be like a real pivotal or detrimental point in your life where it's like, yo, if you could work now, grind now, you could make things a little bit easier for you in the future. You know what I mean? I didn't really have like maybe I had an uncle telling me that, like, but like it didn't really stick. You know what I mean? Or you didn't have examples to see like, oh, well, this pays off. You don't have. I didn't really have too many family members who went to college or even talked about something like that. So examples would have been great. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Had some good times in high school. Like I said, but I definitely would have wanted to go to college. Like because it looked awesome. When I was out of, I might have been dating girls who were in college, and I'm going to their freaking dorm, and they got like they can eat food and shit. They get paid to like go to school and eat food, and they're working towards a goal. And I was just like being dumb. You know what I mean? So wasted a lot of time, and I'm starting to slowly now work to get all that back. All that time I wasted. But
For sure, and but I think it's a lesson learned
yeah,
nonetheless. And
for sure.
like someone, I always say this: like someone could tell you 1,000 times that this is good for you,
Hmm.
but if you're not ready to hear that message,
Hmm.
you're not going to hear the message.
Yeah.
And especially on top of being so young, and probably also especially coming from kind of the dysfunction that you were going through that you mentioned earlier in the podcast, probably, and also not seeing examples
Yep.
kind of sets you up for the position to not want to hear those.
It's a
Like you
fact.
want to go just do whatever with your friends because in the moment when you're young, that's just fun.
Yep.
Like that's just fun. Like just doing dumb shit's fun.
It
Like,
sounds so logical at the time. Like this, like, yeah, this is what we need to do. Fuck it. You know what I mean?
and then as you grow up, you're like, damn, like that was kind of dumb.
That was
Like,
dumb as
and it's
shit.
like, and especially the way that things have gone in the workforce, like something like HVAC is very highly sought after. Like this
Yeah,
is like
totally.
anything like blue collar or for like plumbing, anything is like people want this and they paying top dollar for stuff like this. So like to have that opportunity then and then not kind of like seize it I could see the frustration and be like, damn, like we really had something, we didn't realize it.
Yeah,
But it's like going back to the point, it's like you weren't ready for that. Like
that's a fact.
because you go into something you're not ready for, you might hate it and not enjoy it and completely never touch that
That's
shit
true.
again. And maybe you go back into a different lane in the future. You don't know where life takes you, but
Hmm.
that was an important piece to build the story. And I think, regardless, it's a learning lesson because, like, as you go forward, and you could recognize opportunities. Because, like, if you can't recognize an opportunity, you're gonna miss the opportunity completely. But at least if you can acknowledge that something's an opportunity, you can come prepared and be like, all right, I'm going to receive this opportunity and take full advantage of it. Because
Yeah.
if it's something you really want, you'll go after. But if it's not, then it's not. But at least you know it's an opportunity nonetheless. And I think that's a good point, is
Yeah.
that recognizing opportunities when they arise. Because if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna have to miss a few to realize like that, like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like that's a big fact. That's why I feel we take these losses sometimes or we go through these things. So like you said, maybe we're just not ready for them, you know what I'm saying? So
Life's about timing. Like, there's nothing you
yeah.
could do to control life's time, but besides just living. Like,
Mhm.
so you got, sometimes you just got to, like, let life happen. I'm big on that. It's like everyone wants to, and then, like I said to you off podcast, I'm a big planner. But, like, I also understand that life just needs to happen. There's certain things that are just out of my control.
Yeah.
All I can do is control my day to day and try to control what's going to happen in the future and try to set things up and plan and have some goals. But life's going to do what life does. And, like, I can't control that. All I could do is live and try to live to the best of my ability. And that is what you have to do. Like, if you're just going about life doing whatever, just chilling, doing dumb shit, like, life's gonna be just a bunch of dumb shit.
Bunch of dumb shit.
Life is what you make it, essentially, but it's also, life is kind of with timing. Like, you just gotta let things be, but also recognize opportunities, essentially, is kind of what I'm saying. So
Such
it's like,
that balance.
it's yeah, you gotta, it's, for me, balance is so important. It's just trying to recognize the drive that I personally have, and also recognize that there's stuff that I just can't
Can't
control.
control
So
it.
you gotta kind of balance that, where it's goes to, even when I said off podcast when I was talking about the streamer and
Yep.
stuff, where it's the preparation meets timing.
Mm.
That's when success can really blossom, is success
Nah,
meeting
yeah.
timing. And I think that's a beautiful thing to see, is for that instance, timing wasn't right.
Yep.
That's fine. Who knows where things are going to progress and where things are going to keep going? I mean, did you ever think that you'd be in a podcast right now talking to
Yeah,
me?
right.
Like, you
Imagine.
never
Yeah.
know, like, where life takes you. So, like,
I
I
like what you said there though. Preparation meets timing.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
underrated. Like, kind of, I don't know where I've heard that before, but, like, it just kind of came to me, and I know someone has quoted that before, but it's like an important aspect of success,
Mm.
is those two things meeting at a succinct point and kind of
Yeah,
birthing.
yeah, because you could be on this delusion that the timing is just that it's just gonna happen. It's like, no, you need to be prepared though for when it does happen.
Yeah, because some people,
Nah, yeah,
like,
that's dope.
being rich and famous is luck. Well,
Mm.
sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's because you were prepared at the right moment to
Yeah.
seize that opportunity. And if you're not ready for that, you're gonna miss it and shit and piss it away, and
Hmm.
someone else is gonna capitalize.
Mm.
So it's like, everyone's grinding. Like, check that. Some people are grinding,
Hmm.
and those people that are grinding are always gonna beat you because they're always prepared.
Yeah,
So if you're not preparing, you're gonna miss the opportunities, and you're hoping on luck, and that's tough. Like,
that's tough as fuck.
if you're just gonna bank everything on luck, like, you're really risking a lot. At
Yeah.
least if you're working hard and you're hoping to be lucky, you have a chance. Like,
Hmm.
there's a chance you're lucky, but you're also gonna can always fall back that you're working hard.
Hmm.
And that kind of stems back to a lot of the sports I've played, and just, like, my, like, morals and lessons I've learned from family. It's just working hard and being ready.
You're
Like,
gonna get
it's,
out with the work you put in.
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it all goes to those different aspects. I do
Mhm.
want to pivot into kind of the stuff about more with the music and how
Yeah.
that developed as you kind of grew up, and
Oh
as
hell
well
yeah.
as the art and the graffiti stuff that you kind of mentioned.
Hell yeah. So yeah, like with music, like you want to like dive into like how
Yeah, how
that
it progressed.
transition
Yeah, because
progressing.
obviously
Yeah,
you're here because I started to see that stuff, and I
yeah.
was
It
like,
went
that stuff's
from
cool.
yeah, it went from like little rhyme writing, and I went to like an MC writing class where I met a woman. She actually is the head of AS220 now. Her name is Angel. She was a black woman. This woman was amazing. Like she was a mom, but she also taught kids how to just be dope. Like she just taught kids how to dance hip hop and write rhymes and shit. And she like I used to go to class and she kind of taught me how to write about like stories and formats. She would give us a topic and then we writing around that topic and that really helped me. And as I got a little bit older, I always wrote rhymes, but I never like really I was too like I was too like anxious and like too insecure. You know what I mean? Like like my brother also makes music, and he actually would record and make mixtapes and albums. I'll be like a little 12, 13-year-old kid, maybe spitting a verse on one of his things. But like when my family would go to play it around everybody just chilling, smoking, playing the music, I would go hide. Like if it came time to my verse was coming up, I would go like hide in the room. And even when my friends is over, this meant like stories are talking about like my dad's playing, and I know my verse is about to come on, and my dad's playing the music for all the homies, and my friends are there, and I'm just gonna go like I just like went and hide in the room, and I grew out of that a lot. Like now I was fucking spit in front of anybody, like I'll rhyme in front of anybody, and it's funny because my brother who makes music, he used to be like he used to be outgoing and rap in front of anybody. Now when he's around, now he's like all timid and shit. So it's crazy how like life works like that, you know, like cycles. I feel like sometimes our brain or just like our confidence can go through. But music was just like, oh, I gave it a little try, like maybe like when I was like in my early 20s, I started making little music videos and little rhymes, and I was recording my friends. But it became a lot because like I was the engineer, you know, off the Mac. But I was the one who got all the equipment. I was the one recording everybody, and like and then life gets into play of just like you said, like the color just getting sucked out of you, and you just kind of lose like like that motivation or that like that initial hunger or like that drive you had. And that's why it's good to keep momentum going, or just like what we were speaking on of just like keep going, don't stop. Like even if it's you know what I mean, even if it's something, just keep going. You can always brush up on that. So like the music, like it's definitely a love. It's something that once like the graffiti came into my life, it kind of like definitely I don't think about it as much as more because the graph like takes up so much. I'm like, but I always have this love for music, and I appreciate my friends who have been recently getting me back in touch with it. As far as just listening to it, I don't even listen to a lot of music as of lately. I listen to a lot of podcasts, bro. You know what I mean? I don't even ingest a lot of music how I used to, but I'm always writing rhymes, so I just can't help it. You know what I mean? So I'm always gonna be doing that. It's just something I love to do. I feel like I'm definitely an MC at heart. That's why I always wear this hat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
To
yeah.
look like a mushroom, but also like this is just a hip hop very
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean?
That was
So
like my first thought. It was like,
yeah,
that's what it was giving. So
LL Cool J or just like some old school hip hop shit. So I always got a like a Kangol on or something, just cause like I'm big on MC-ism, you know. I like my style of like rhyming is just like that, like maybe like the older '90s boom bap, like MC-ism, or just like just real hip hop type vibe. But
yeah.
I'm open to all of it. I love music in general, like you know, definitely a good escape. And I see how I enjoy seeing how it affects other people because like I start seeing my friends have this like they listen to this like these new songs that come out, and I see the excitement in them that I used to get. Well, I don't really get that a lot no more when it comes to like artists dropping music and all that no more. You know, I like podcasts, which is weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think music is really watered down. Like, I don't,
Yeah,
everything
for
is
sure,
very like
bro.
engineered and it's
Mm-hmm.
very auto tune
Rushed.
based. And it's like,
Yep.
it's just not, certain songs come out and they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the stuff that comes out, and especially with hip hop rap,
Yeah.
it's a lot of people sound the same. And a lot of it is just like, I noticed this like as I got older, I just couldn't listen to rap, especially in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It just
The
doesn't set the
frequencies is off.
it doesn't set the tone right.
Yeah, I see
Like
what you
it's just
mean.
like if I'm like working out, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I've even switched to like punk and stuff in the morning because
Mm.
like I just want to be aggressive in the morning. Like I
Okay,
like
so you
in it,
get right
so it's
after
like
it.
or like I like nightmares and dreams and stuff
Yep.
like Meek Mill, something
Meek Mill, yep.
aggressive. Like I
Yep.
need something aggressive in the morning every once in a while. Because like if I play like during the summer, big country guy. Like I just love
Nice.
as soon as roll the windows down, like just play some
Chill for
country
yeah.
music. Yeah.
It'd be
As
chilling.
soon as summer starts coming or like into fall
Yep.
country, but then it's like winter and stuff like that and spring, I'll be more into like the rap and stuff and
Nice.
like more mellow music. I can't really think of like a genre for it. Um
It's like
but
chill.
yeah, it could be chill, it could be poppy, it could be rock. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just it varies. Like I've definitely shifted from pretty much like high school to like into like college was like heavy rap, heavy hip hop. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was all into it. And the more you pay attention to like what they're actually saying,
Mm-hmm.
the less relatable it is.
Mm.
And like you said, frequency stuff. Like I always think about my friend, he talked about listening to Juice World a lot and like how listening to Juice World over time just started to make him kind of depressed.
Yeah, I mean,
And he stopped listening to Juice World altogether because like he loves Juice World,
yeah,
but the music was literally making him sad.
it's not
Because
good
like
for his diet.
yeah, I mean, if you think about the power of words and what we say. Like if you believe in manifestation and like law of attraction and like constantly saying stuff, if you're rapping or reciting lyrics over and over and they're not positive stuff,
It's a
you're
recipe for
gonna
destruction.
attract that stuff into
Yeah.
your life by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think you're having a good time with the boys or by yourself, and really you're manifesting negative energy almost.
Spells.
Yeah. They talk about spelling, and the root of that is spells.
Yep.
And it's kind of crazy that we don't see that because we're so focused on other things that we're just like, it's just music.
Mm.
Music is powerful.
Powerful. That's why they control it. You know what I mean? They understand the power it has over people. And then when you have people who are really good with the sonics and stuff, they really understand the frequencies and all that shit, which a lot of us don't even grasp. I can't even imagine on top of the words that we have to fucking like digest all the time.
And it's crazy to think about, like, these artists also, if they're smart enough, will research frequencies and how to like captivate
Yep.
audiences, and like most of them do because that's how they get to that level, is because
Mhm.
those beats and those sounds are attractive to the human like ears. Like we like that. It sounds good. That's why they get popular. It's like, oh, that sounds good. Like if you hear something or hear a beat drop, you're like, damn, that's just fire. Like
Yeah, it's doing
it's just
something to you.
universally recognized. We're like, yeah, that shit's fire. So it's
Yeah.
like we know, like there's something internal that we all can recognize in that.
Yeah.
And once someone is able to tap into that,
Hmm.
it's crazy what they can accomplish. And that's where those level, I mean, look at any artist, like they have like almost sometimes cult like followings because like
Yeah. Think about it. They're under
a spell
certain
essentially. They're
spells.
into that, like they literally can. I mean, Taylor Swift's a perfect example of this,
Hmm.
where her audience, and even somewhat like Drake before all this stuff happened, like
Yeah.
they look at him as like God or her as like a god, and it's like
It's fucking crazy.
their whole identity is being a fan of somebody else, and like
Yeah. That's dangerous,
that's
man.
crazy.
That's
Like
dangerous.
they're just a human.
Yeah.
At least we know they're just human. But like
Yeah.
I never, I just don't like the idolization of celebrities. Like that was just a person, bro.
Dude, and
Like
they're probably way more fucked up than you are. You're gonna look up to them for advice, or you're gonna look to them as how you should live your life, or that's success, or that's happiness. You know, it's funny, like touching on celebrities, we all look up to these motherfuckers, look up to these celebrities and all that. Like a real celebrity to me is what, like, my dad had to get double brain surgery, and there was this man who specialized in it, and he saved his life. And I'm just like, yo, this man cuts humans open and fixes them like cars. Like that's a celebrity. That's an angel. Like we should be looking up to these people. Like, geez, like what's this person like cuts people open and fixes them? You know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ. Like I'm like that's a celebrity. Those are the angels of the earth. Like that is amazing. And we're over here looking at like these people with a little bit of like publicity or like notoriety. It's just like it's kind of sickening.
chasing clout and making it their whole identity. I
Bro,
mean,
clout is such a drug, man.
it's overrated. I
Such a
mean,
fucking drug.
I've had the issues with social media. I had a TikTok page that kind of it has like 60K
Oh
followers.
wow.
It used to have like a little bit more, but I stopped posting for like over a year. I started posting podcast clips on there now because I was
Mhm.
like, I have 60K.
Might as well, yeah.
Even if I
utilize
lose
that.
followers, I'm never gonna lose 60K.
Yeah.
Even if like worst case, say I lose like
Yeah.
40 or 30K, I still have 10K. Like
Yes,
fuck it,
shit.
might as well post the
It's a good
podcast and
audience.
do that. But I was posting like sad boy relationship shit, and
Mm.
part of it was coping at the time, going over trying to like get my stuff out
Yeah.
before I went to therapy and actually worked on some shit.
Hmm.
And the views were addicting. Like I had people telling me I shouldn't post that stuff, and I didn't want to hear it. Goes back to when if you're not ready to hear something, you're not going to hear it.
You know, yeah. It doesn't matter how
And
many times they tell you.
it wasn't until later in life where I was like, yeah, this shit just doesn't serve me. And like,
Mm.
I can't post this shit and get into a healthy relationship, which I am in now. As soon
Yeah.
as I stopped posting that stuff, found the person I wanted.
Yeah, because you gotta ultimately think too. You if you post that, there's men out there or people looking at that who are gonna feed off of that and that energy, and now you just kind of tainted someone else's thing because they might have been good. They read that, now they're gonna go treat their partner like shit because they got a little insecure. You know what I mean? Like what we put into this world, is very important. Like I heard a comedian, Bert Kreischer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Bert Kreischer told a story, and I always think of this like. He went to a village in Africa and he thought it was a good thing to get all these kids soccer balls. You know what I mean? So he got them all soccer balls. And then the local like grounds counselor was like, "What are you doing? Are you trying to get these kids killed?" You know what I mean? Like he thought he was doing something nice, giving these kids soccer balls, but he don't know when these kids leave with these soccer balls, they gotta face reality of people trying to rob them for their damn soccer balls and shit like that. So sometimes you might feel even like something you might even think you're doing something positive, but like what we put into this world, like as far as media or just a lot of things, like we have to be real mindful of like the repercussions of that. 'Cause you're putting something out into the cipher, the energy, you know what I mean? And it's hard to know. It's that balance of hard to know what's good and bad or not. You know what I mean? But definitely trying to always be cognizant of that, like be aware of that, like what I'm putting out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, once you're more mindful of the stuff that you're sharing,
Yeah,
things start changing, and that's why
yeah,
I've leaned. Luckily, I've always had this podcast as I was even posting that stuff to always
yeah.
lean back on.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at that content now, I'm like, well, I'm glad I did it because I
Mm-hmm.
got to see the algorithms and see how social media works, and it taught me a lot.
Yeah.
But the negative energy that it brought me for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
everything started to become content about my dating life to try to fuel my TikTok was
Yep.
like, all right, if something bad happens, how can I word this to make this relatable on TikTok? Or
Mm.
I saw a quote, how can I take this quote and relate this? Or I found this sound, how do I apply this to like this feeling that I have? And everything was becoming wrapped around this TikTok page. And it got away from why I originally was doing it, was to get out my feelings. And that's why it got people to follow, because
Yeah.
people were relating to what I was feeling, which validated what I felt,
Yeah.
but it encouraged that poor negative behavior of posting those TikToks that didn't really serve me at the
It was
time.
like
It
a reward
helped.
system, them
Yeah, it
views and stuff.
helped get it out there, and I
Yeah.
I met some cool people. I can't say that I didn't, and I have some followers that I still talk to and stuff to this day, and that still follow the pages and shit. But overall, what it was doing to my own mental health wasn't positive.
Mhm.
I thought it was. It was somewhat doing it, but it was really just a coping mechanism, and I didn't have healthier ones at the time.
Mm.
You only know what you know, and if you don't know how to deal with shit, you're gonna deal with shit the way that you know how. And if you deal with shit in a bad way and that's what you know how, it's just not. It's gonna keep on going and keep going, and it's never
Nah.
gonna work.
Yeah, it's just like a cycle of just
Vicious cycle. It's
yeah,
not good.
vicious cycle.
I want to get into. We're getting towards the end. I want to get into like the graffiti stuff and how that stuff has really kind of taken a lot of energy and time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, graffiti is just another aspect of hip hop. It came into my life later. You know what I mean? There's times I wish it would have came into it earlier so I could be as good as I want to be in my head. You know what I mean? Because I'm not the best illustrator or the best artist. But that's the thing with graph. Like you could get respect and not be the best artist as long as you got consistency. You take risk. You show respect. You know what I mean? You respect the elders. You respect the history and all that. You do the right thing. But it came into my life. I guess hip hop's always been a part of my life, so it's not too surprising why it kind of I naturally gravitated towards it. You know what I mean? It's just like a natural thing. My first exposure to it was like a video game when I was a kid. I had a Sega Dreamcast. I had like a Jet Set Radio video game. That was like shit blew my mind. And then as I got older, I started it as someone who did graffiti. I started pretty late, but the time I did spend in it, I made up for it. Like I went in, I put a lot of work in, I guess, at least around. And I don't know, man. It's taught me a lot. There's a lot of negatives that come with it if you're really doing it, like if you're really out there, you know. But the positives of it is something like this. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't. I wouldn't have been here speaking to you if it wasn't if I didn't go out there and do that. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful thing, but it has its cons. The cons kind of suck sometimes, whether it become law enforcement or you having to like steal to get your supplies or you having to go out there and risk your freedom and stuff like that. I think about it a lot of times. There's many avenues and aspects that you can approach it. There's people who take it very seriously. There's people who created a life off of it. There's people who are millionaires off of it. There's people who are not doing anything with their life off of it. You know what I mean? It's all about what you make of it. You know what I mean? But it's really important to me because anybody who knows who writes, like once you do it, it's just like an addiction. It's like all you fucking think about. You know what I mean? And me, I'm not where I would like to be skill wise, but that's something I'm happy I found. You know what I mean? Because now I have something to always work towards. I can't imagine where I would be right now if I didn't find it. I'm gonna be real with you. Because that's my main passion. That's my hobby. I could always go do something. That's what's the positive about it. I can go outside. You know what I mean? I can go outside and find something. Go find some. Whether it's finding old graph or going to do new graph or like to go meet people. It's something to do, and it gave me something to do, something to work towards. You know what I mean? whether there's a lot of negatives with it, it comes with like beef, or it comes with arrest, or it comes with just negativity sometimes. Like I found ways to find positives out of it when I can. You know what I mean? Going back to just like being like we were speaking on, like just being a child again, you know what I mean? It's such like it was an art form created by children, you know what I mean? Created by young youth in the hood, you know what I mean? And I'm an adult now, but I'm still out there doing, and they look at it as like kid shit, but I don't know, like I just feel good when I'm doing it sometimes, or like, you know what I mean? So I think that speaks volumes, you know what I mean? Especially for a person, there's certain people who really risk their freedom and really put their neck on the line to do this shit. There's people who risk their lives. You know, I might have been in situations where I risked my lives multiple times. You know what I mean? Like whether we're hanging off of things, or we're like dodging trains, or like dodging like homeless people, or dodging cops. You know what I mean? But I think there's like powerfulness in that. And there's a lot of power in that, because someone who's willing, you don't get no reward for it other than like, shit like this, getting some a little recognition, or like unless you do some work to get paid for it. But it just it's powerful that some people they're willing to go so far for something they're gonna get so little out of, you know what I mean? Well, is it little? You know what I mean? Just because you're not getting no like monetary value from it doesn't mean that it's little. Like no, like you get some like recognition from your peers or from your city. Where I look at it is like we're leaving our mark, you know what I mean? Just like the ancient civilizations left their mark in the stones, and it's here way beyond there. Like it outlived them. Same with the graph, you know what I mean? If I die tomorrow, my family could go out and go see my graph. Well, that's my story right there. I was here, you know what I mean? So it's really powerful. Like definitely some I'm real passionate about now. Definitely want to get better at it. That's my goal, is to just travel and paint anywhere I can in the world. Anywhere I could go, anywhere I can bump heads with, anywhere I can learn. Definitely.
Yeah, that's where at least on the podcast, when you could tell someone is talking about their passion,
Yeah.
they really light up and dive into it.
Yeah.
And in that moment, that's where I could see the passion really
Yeah,
come
totally.
to the forefront. And
Yeah.
it kind of, I love what you said with the aspect of, it gives you kind of like this purpose, this
Yeah,
like
definitely.
goal to work towards. And as I was telling you off podcast, like why I do this and where this even came from was to have my thing. Like I don't have a thing. I want to leave something.
It's so important.
And it goes into the legacy point that we were having this conversation off podcast. It's like, what are you leaving behind? Like, how are you leaving your mark on this world? And it's all up to you. Like some people don't think about that, and that's fine.
That's fine. But
I'm just very focused on like, how can I leave my mark? How can I influence my family and my friends? And how can I also put a spotlight onto people that also do really cool stuff? Like we were talking about earlier, everyone looks to the celebrities. Well, what about our communities? What about everyone
communities,
around us? Like
celebrities all around you,
it's
man.
like you just gotta ask. You just gotta talk to people. And the more that you talk to people, the more connections that you make, and the better things can get for you, because you start connecting with people that do really cool things, like me and you here.
Yep.
And it all stems from like me talking to Danny, or me talking to another guest, and me talking to another guest, and it snowballs all into this. If I don't do 184 episodes, I don't get to you. Like it's a continuation of all this stuff in pursuit of a passion. And that is an important aspect that you were hitting on, is like it drives you forward, it keeps you motivated, you want to keep doing it. And even on the days that you don't want to do it, or you
Oh
might
my
want to give up
God.
on it,
Ugh.
like you still have that thought will pop in. It's like, no, like you got to keep doing it. You got to
That's a
keep
fact.
going. And that's like the huge thing, is like to not give up.
Yeah, there's more giving up days than there is good days, bro. You know what I mean? I'm sure I know you're a human. You've had those days where you're just second guessing everything you're doing, but there's importance of just keep going. You know what I mean? A lot of the people that we all look up to, we aspire to be like in our field, they just didn't give up. You know what I mean? And just like me, where I get discouraged because I'm not the best illustrator, I look at the people who are really good and I see their early work to where they got to, and they didn't give up. You know what I mean?
It's timing. Like I said earlier, it's all timing. Like
Preparation and timing.
you just don't give up. Like
Mm.
like I've had days where it's like you look at the view count, you don't know how to get this podcast to like those levels, and it's like, because like obviously I have the social media ties to the TikTok shit, and I've seen how things can go, and I'm like, how do I get it there? And then you get frustrated. You're like, I'm just not good at this, and like you're getting all mad at yourself, and you don't want to do it anymore. But it's like it's not about that shit. It's never been about that shit.
Mhm.
And it's always reconnecting with why I started this in the fucking first place was
Yeah.
like to give myself a reason to get up and like be happy with my life. And it's like, obviously, yeah, I'm glad I have a good family. I'm glad I have great friends. I'm glad I can work. But it's like, at the end of the day, I can look at this and be like, yeah, I created this.
Yeah,
I
right.
did this
Should
shit.
be proud too,
And
bro. This is an accomplishment.
thank you. And it's like, that's where it all stems from was like, I want to just be something, have something I can be proud of at the end of the day. I want to be proud that I did something.
Yeah,
Like I created this. Like, and
definitely.
for all my life, I was always about like school and football. And then football ended and I didn't have anything.
Hmm.
And then I got into stupid shit like from like late high school into college and move away to try to get away from it all just to find myself back to square one. It's
In the
like,
same loop.
where is it? Like, where's my thing? And
That's important too, though. Yeah, because I have a friend Sam, and he's shout out to Sam. He's kind of conflicted with that right now. He's wondering what his thing is, and I could see the frustration in him. And when I do, it makes me more grateful that I did find graffiti because, like I said, I have a thing to work towards. I can always go do something where he's just in the crib and he wants to make moves so bad, but he just doesn't know what it is. He likes to play instruments and stuff, but he just and I give him advice, community. Find community. That's find other people you can enjoy this with. You know what I mean? But he expresses to me all the time how he's like, what's my thing? You know what I mean? And I feel so bad for people who haven't found at least something, and I encourage those to do so. And maybe we'll touch on that later, but at the end, but like, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. It's important to find your thing. Like
Yeah.
it takes time and like you like I always said, and I've been a big like advocate of this. And there's this guy on TikTok who's hubs.life
Hmm.
and he's a 9 to 5 like TikTok creator. And he's actually shouted me out before because I mentioned him on the podcast and I didn't even tag him and he found
Oh, nice.
the clip.
Oh, he did?
I think I did tag him because I didn't know what his name was on the podcast, but
Hmm.
then I found him. But hubs.life and he doesn't glorify this the 9 to 5 lifestyle on TikTok.
Yeah.
He just shows that you could live a normal life and be fine. Like you don't have
Hmm.
to worry about other stuff. And I love that because people shit on 9 to 5s and all this stuff. It's like make your money. You gotta live.
You
You
gotta
gotta
live.
live.
Yeah.
You gotta find a way to live. And if the way that you live, you can make the most money as a 9 to 5, don't be ashamed that you have to do that. But for those who want that thing, use that time and the money that you're putting in your 9 to 5, taking that and put it into finding stuff. Try new things, try art classes, try a podcast, like
Try
go on some
something.
podcasts, like try different things. Like you don't have to necessarily make money off it right away or at all. I
Hmm.
don't make $1 off this
Hmm.
podcast. I do this at the end of the day because I enjoy doing this. And if I
Hmm.
make money in the future, cool.
Cool.
That wasn't the reason why I started this.
Definitely.
It was to just talk to people and have fun. And here we are at episode 185, still doing that shit. And
That's
like,
a blessing, yo.
and that's the coolest thing in the
Hard
world. At the
work
end of the
right
day,
there.
I can look at this and say I've done this longer than I was in high school, and I've done this longer than I've been in college. Like
Wow.
that's the cool shit.
Yeah,
Like
no, yeah.
it's just like a whole nother era.
Mhm.
After that, it's like high school, college, podcasting,
Podcast.
and it's like
Yeah.
just embracing it and like seeing where things go. And obviously, I have that special project that I mentioned off thing, and we'll see where that comes up into play and how
Yeah.
that takes things to maybe a different level and where I go from that. But it's constantly in pursuit of that thing.
Mhm.
And as we're getting towards the end of the podcast, I want
Definitely.
to start bringing us home and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I do have that one more question related to passions for you.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you wanted to say, maybe aside from that, that you didn't get to say in the podcast? I just want to give you a chance in case we missed anything.
About just passions?
No,
Or
we'll
just
save
in
that for the end.
general?
Yeah, if it's different from that, I just like
Yeah.
always like to offer a
Oh
chance in
yeah,
case we miss
totally.
something.
Hmm. Maybe I could recite like a little rhyme real quick
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
want to, go
totally.
ahead.
Yeah. So this is probably just a little rhyme I wrote years ago, and it's honestly not my favorite, but I just feel like it's so relatable. Or like it's just like I could. It's just like it's like yo, what's the meaning of this life we live in? I really feel we'll never know. Will we be forgiven when it come my time to go? Some nights I sit inside my room and think. I get so lost in my thoughts that I can't move a blink. I could use a drink to help me cope with this shit because there's times I'm really over this shit. Friday nights when I'm supposed to get lit, yo, I just sit there all alone with a bottle, not a friend, miles away from home. And yo, this shit has got to end, but yo, it's just beginning. The ones who's sinning be the ones who's winning. I find it hard for me to fucking fit in because I ain't trying to risk my freedom nor my life so I can make a buck. I'd rather stay alive and run amok. I paint my name on walls. I tell the the police, they can suck my balls. I'm fucking tired of these prison calls. Cause it's like every other day someone I love is getting jammed. Yo, I just want to run away, man. You don't even understand. You know what I mean? That's just like a little verse I have that like so just touch on something that a lot of people can just relate to, and what's the meaning of this life we live in and all that stuff like that. But just something I wanted to get off the chest because maybe someone can hear that and relate to that. You know what I mean?
Hell
So
yeah. And
totally.
I would definitely encourage maybe tapping back into that MC stuff
No, I
some more.
appreciate you,
There's
bro.
definitely some
Yeah.
crazy talent there,
Thank you,
dude.
bro.
That
I
shit was
appreciate
fire,
you.
honestly.
Appreciate you.
Like,
Thank you, bro.
and this isn't like a technology aimed towards music, and that
Yeah.
shit sounded fire, to be
Oh, right. Yeah,
honest.
you got
Yeah.
the headphones on.
Yeah, that just sounded good. Like, I don't
Thank
have any
you.
specific editing on this to make
No,
your
yeah.
voice sound better. Like,
Yeah.
that just sounds good. Like,
Yeah,
straight
that's
up.
just something I could just like. It's a rhyme, but you
You had a
could
beat to that shit, go
yeah,
crazy.
you could do a beat or you could just spit it as a spoken word and people are gonna relate to it. That's why I spit
Yeah.
it. Like I'll go on a poetry stage and recite that right now just cause like it just flows, you know what I mean? But just something that's more thoughtful of the rhymes that I write, I guess. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. I wish more music was like that these days, where it was
Yeah.
more about like that versus just making a fire beat and slapping some words on it and
hot
saying,
ass
yeah,
beat
yeah,
clap.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
sounds good in the club, but shit doesn't mean
Yeah, that's the
anything.
thing. There's a time and place for everything. Sometimes I need some ratchet shit in my life too. So, I'll just play some of that bullshit.
Yeah. Sometimes you need that shit.
Yeah.
All right. So, Tyrell, it's been a great
Yeah, I
podcast.
appreciate you, man.
I do have the last question for you, so we'll dive into that. So, what would your advice be for someone who wants to pursue their passion?
Shit, my advice for someone who wants to pursue their passion, one is to just not really care what people think about you because that can hinder us a lot. And that hindered me a lot in my early years of like maybe if I wasted a lot of potential in certain aspects because of just caring what people might have thought about me. And when you realize, like, I read quote somewhere where it's like someone who's less talented you is getting the recognition because they didn't care what somebody thought. I definitely think that's a huge thing. Sometimes we get in our own head and like, how can we let someone who's not even trying affect us for trying? You know what I mean? So that's one thing. It also is just like, don't be afraid to like act a fool or be a kid. You know what I mean? Like, still be an adult and take care of your shit, but like, have fun with it. You know what I mean? Like, do what makes you happy. Like, we were speaking off podcast, how many sacrifices you made to do this because it genuinely made you happy. And that's the same thing with like my little graffiti shit is like if you can look and take anything from this is like I said, I don't get much out of it. I don't get paid for it. I don't get all that, but I do it because it makes me happy. You know what I mean? I have family who doesn't agree with what I do. I have society. Most of society doesn't agree with what I do. But I still do it. It makes me feel good. You know what I mean? And that's important to me at the end of the day because like I said, this is so limited. You want to go out knowing you were doing something you didn't want to do. You want to go out at least knowing something you was at least doing something you was happy with. That's how I look at it. So if I have give any advice, man, just really just don't care what people think. You know what I mean? Also care what people think because you should. Don't be a fool out there making them or have a small eye, but don't let somebody hinder you from because you're like worried about what they're gonna think about you. You know what I mean? Just do it. You know what I mean? Because 9 times out of 10, they're doing nothing and they're just quick to talk about you. And also like don't lose that inner child. You know what I mean? I guess I'll say that. Don't lose that inner child because the passion a child has or just like the drive a child has is just it's unmeasurable. You know what I mean? Like they're just so passionate about something. They're so just be happy about what you're doing. I mean, it could help you be happy about what you're doing. If you keep that inner child alive. And I know society and just bills and life can try to suck that out of you, like suck the colors just out of you. But just don't lose your color. Hold on to that for sure. Definitely.
Perfect. I think that's a perfect place to tie the bow. And it
Yeah,
also goes
totally.
into on the not caring what people think, like
Mhm.
it's being socially aware.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, more of that because we
yeah,
spoke on it earlier. You said no, we should have a
part of
some.
it's true. Like,
Yeah,
like I said, like you shouldn't care for the trying aspect, but
yeah,
be socially aware. Like, if you're doing something stupid, like,
yeah,
come on, be aware that it's a stupid ass shit you're doing and
yeah,
like change
yeah.
that. Like, there's so many people. I mean, you ever been like walking around in public and someone's just like cluelessly doing something? It's like
Hmm.
someone who's socially aware. They might not be caring what other people think, but you
Yep.
should probably care because you're in the way of other people.
Yeah, you're
Like,
freaking walking half naked through the street, causing traffic and shit
yeah,
like that.
they
Yeah,
don't care what people think,
they
but
don't
they
care.
should
They
care.
should care.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because like that's an example, I guess, of what we're kind of portraying. Because
yeah,
it's like that's
exactly.
when a moment you should care. Like, perception does matter. If you're
Hmm.
if you're putting an image out there of this like bad person on social media, you're tough, you don't care what people think, well, and you're not like that, people are gonna still assume that and
Yep.
probably just think you're a bad person. But
Yep.
if you put out you're good, genuine person that likes to do a certain thing, people are gonna perceive you as that. Perception matters, and especially in a social media world, at least. Like
Yeah,
that's just the world we live in.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, like definitely a balance of not caring but also caring.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the conversation has been is just a balance.
Balance,
Yeah,
right? And it's funny. I don't know much about horoscopes, but I'm a Libra, and I think that's the
yeah, that's
that's the sign, right?
yeah.
It's balance. Yeah, we're all trying to struggle with that. There's a balance to everything, and we'll find it.
I'll find it. Tyrell, this has been a
This is
fantastic
awesome, bro.
podcast, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on. And doors always open if you want to come back on and we
Oh,
talk
hell
about
yeah.
ancient aliens or something and
Yo,
dive into some of
yeah.
that.
See, that's another
Yeah,
combo.
dive into like spirituality and shit like that. I'm
Yeah,
always down for
totally.
different conversations and
Nah.
just to see you grow and see you where you go from here.
I appreciate you, man, and like, man, just a lot. Thank you for allowing me in your space. Thank you for tuning into my art and like making it a reason for you to have me on the podcast. But just thank you for what you do. This is amazing. Like I was speaking to Danny, like 185 episodes, man, and the way like I don't know if anybody knows this man is super calculated and on point and scheduled, which is son I like truly like respect and commend, and son I can only pray to aspire to be, and like seeing you give me a glimpse of like how organized someone can be. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you for just even like messaging me, man. Thank you for what you're doing.
I appreciate
this is amazing.
those kind words, and I don't get those often. It's like
yeah.
because like obviously people might say it after the podcast to people they know is like, yeah, this was a really great podcast.
Oh,
I really
yeah.
enjoyed the convo with him, but like I don't always get hear it. And I think that's like to go into the stuff is like say stuff to people while they're in front of you and while they're alive. Like I think
Yes.
that's an important thing. But
Important.
I appreciate you for saying those things. I appreciate you for coming on this
Hell
podcast,
yeah.
and this has been great.
Yeah,
So
it's been awesome.
for you guys, if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. Check it out, the carrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. And if you want to be, or all the major listening platforms, if you want to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up. And if you want to be a guest or return as guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection, and we'll set that up. So, till next time, guys, peace.